This video is going to cover some of the concepts for your quadrilaterals test. The first concept that we need to talk about is interior angles versus exterior angles in polygons. Interior angles, there's a formula that you have to know. That formula is n minus 2 times 180. That will give you the total degree measure in the polygon on the inside of the shape. So some shapes you're going to have to find this value for the inside degrees and then find a variable. Also, some questions you might just have to answer how many degrees are in a pentagon. And a pentagon has 5 sides. So then you would plug in 5 minus 2, which would be 3, and multiply that by 180 to get your answer, which is 540 degrees in a pentagon. Another concept that we need to know is exterior angles in a polygon. And all exterior angles, no matter what polygon it is, are equal to 360 degrees. So the next thing that we need to talk about are the properties of parallelograms, and there are 5. The first one is that there are 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. There are 2 pairs of opposite sides that are congruent. 2 pairs of opposite angles are congruent, and consecutive angles are supplementary, which means they add to equal 180 degrees. The last one that we need to talk about is diagonals bisect each other. And so the word bisect is kind of interesting. That just means that you can set the 2 values that you know for the diagonal equal to each other. So these are split into 2 equal parts. Obviously, if things are congruent, that means we can set them equal to each other. Both of these we can set equal to each other, opposite sides and opposite angles in a parallelogram. And then consecutive angles would add to equal 180 degrees. So the next shape that might be worth mentioning is a rectangle. There's 2 extra properties. In a rectangle, there are 4 congruent right angles, and diagonals are congruent, which means that diagonals are equal. So something to be thinking about so far, there's 2 major differences between a parallelogram and a rectangle. In a parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other, and in a rectangle, not only do the diagonals bisect each other, but they also are congruent. So you're going to want to be able to compare those 2 for sure. Here's a screenshot of the table property that you were given at the beginning of your review. You need to make sure that you know all of these properties and how they relate to each other. Like I've told you, a very similar table to this will be on your test, so you're expected to know all of these. And on top of that, you're expected to know how they apply in any given situation with any of the shapes. Most of the shapes that you have to solve parts for are a parallelogram, but you do need to be able to tell the most specific name for a given quadrilateral based on what's marked in a picture. So you need to know what all of these would look like in a picture as well, which you've got examples of that on your review. The last concept that we need to talk about is the mid-segment theorem, and the mid-segment theorem has to do with any trapezoid, and it says that the mid-segment, if this is AB, this is X, W, X, Y, and Z, then AB is equal to half of XY plus WZ. Another way that you can write that is that it would take 2 ABs to equal XY plus WZ. Either way, it's the same thing written 2 different ways. For your test, you need to be able to tell if I give you a numerical value on the top and a numerical value on the bottom. So if the top's 2 and the bottom's 10, then you need to be able to find the distance of AB. Also, if variables get put in there, you need to be able to set the correct things equal to each other and solve for the variable. That's just using algebra. We will have just a few minutes before we take the test tomorrow for you guys to ask any questions that you have. So please make sure that you have your review done and any questions ready to go. I was going to send out the review, but I don't have it electronically here at home, so I can't make an answer key for you. But any questions that you have, feel free to come and see me in the morning before school, or we can spend about 20 minutes before we take the test to ask questions.